to really look at the solutions that we have as a business. I think that's why we survived as long as we have and thrived, because we will take our technologies, our data analytics, our Watson, which is the name of our artificial intelligence, and we really want to build capacity in communities, in not-for-profits, in schools, and make sure across the spectrum that we're leveraging all of the talents, all of the capabilities. So we focus our impact grants and all of our giving in 3 priority social issue areas of education and health and resilient communities. So those are pretty broad. And so I'll give you some examples of impact grants that we've made here, and I'll jump on what Joe said because it's one of my favorites, is the work that we're doing with veterans. Okay. We had started a program, and I happen to have global responsibilities, and so a global program of training veterans in cybersecurity technologies, in I2 and Radar, a number of our software packages. And we give them training, and then we have them take tests where they are certified. And those are very tangible skills for them to transfer the things that they've done while they're in the military into high-paying jobs in the corporate sector. And so we, in the Philadelphia area, did 2 of these trainings last year. We trained 500 vets overall in the U.S. And what's different about our program for veterans is that we have relationships not just in IBM to hire these veterans, but in 7 other companies. So my ears lit up when Joe said he focused on vets, because I'm like, okay, he's going to have to join our veterans initiative, because we want these vets hired in really well-paying positions that enable them to have very successful careers in the corporate sector. And so we partner with organizations like Corporate America Supports You, where across the country we'll do 20 different trainings. Here in Pennsylvania, Pittsburgh, and Philadelphia, we do the trainings, and then locally we partnered with PNC because they had a strong veterans program, and we said, okay, between the jobs can come from IBM or the jobs can come from PNC. So the Veterans Initiative is one example. We do a number of analytics grants, which are really helping the not-for-profits, first of all, understand impactful, thus the name impact grants, that what the impact of their work is. Yes. So we help them start the data journey, from grants that help them from strategy about leading with data, how to capture and measure what the success of the programs that they are delivering in communities, all the way up to predictive analytics. And we've done these grants with all the organizations that you might imagine in the Philadelphia area, with the Girl Scouts of Southeastern Pennsylvania, with the United Way, with the Arts and Business Council. So a really nice mix, long-term relationships. IBM's not about just making a transaction with an organization. If you're getting an impact grant, it's most likely that we're also going to bring in the second thing that I wanted to talk about are IBM volunteers, our IBM board service program, where we think there's not a better gift than putting an IBM executive or rising star on a local board. And we have that happening around the area and of course around the world. Those time that IBMers spend working and volunteering in organizations, and we do about 1.2 million in hours a year around the world of volunteering. We do about 200,000 in this area with very active volunteers. Those volunteers bring cash with them. That's what your listeners are going to be excited about, because we do about $5 million a year in community grants. Okay. Those community grants are earned by our volunteers. So if you have a volunteer and they are working at the Philadelphia Education Fund, once they log 40 hours on the IBM Volunteers Portal, they can award a $2,000 cash grant to that NGO. So I think the message for your listeners is look for an IBMer, engage them volunteering with your organization.
Give them a lot of hours.
And give them a lot of hours. Work them hard. Right. And they also bring a whole portfolio of the same things that we're doing in impact grants. We equip the IBMer. We empower the IBMer. They can bring the software in. They can bring the access to the cloud. They can do coding camps with young people at the Boys and Girls Club, et cetera. So very important that it's not just philanthropy from corporate, or it's also very important that we're empowering 400,000 IBMers to go out bring their skills into the community. And our CEO this year put a challenge forward saying that we want IBMers to reach 1 million young people in new collar skills.
Right.
And that's a term that IBM has coined for the 21st century skills, for the new skills that are needed to advance in this century with work.
Okay, that's fantastic. And one of the things that I took note of is that when it comes to analytics and the use of analytics, to be more precise, to make sure that dollars are being spent in the best way possible, that the results are as good as possible, that many organizations are really just getting into that field. And so, IBM is there to help set that up. And then as time goes by, more and more funders want to see, like, hey, what's your rate of success? What are we getting for what we give you?
Right, that's perfect, Councilman O, because what we see is, first of all, the individual not-for-profit or NGO needs to understand how to measure the impact of what they're doing. So starting them as you would on a data journey. And so we take the NGO when they come forward to us at where they're at, and we bring them along that learning curve. We actually published a report out last year and it's called Leap Before You Lag. And not-for-profits can go look at that and see where they stand and do a self-assessment, and that's on the ibm.com/responsibility site. Once you're able to capture the data and leverage these tools, it goes beyond, as you said, which is very important. Funders want to see how you're measuring what you're doing, how you're using the money that they're donating to you, but it also then takes them to that next level. They're in the high end of maturity of using data. They can have insights. They can understand. We're doing some fascinating work with NGOs focused on the topic of human trafficking.
Right.
And we have grantees in the UK, in the US, in Canada, where we are providing them with the I2 software for fraud detection,
Right.
to be able to look at data and marry it with other companies' data, like Western Union, to look at financial data, incident data, and really give insights so that investigators, like some of our partner NGOs that are focused on the issue of prevention, through the data, they can break up human trafficking rings before, in most cases it's young women, are taken as victims of this like horrific crime. So a lot of, I think the application of analytics and predictive analytics in the social sector on a lot of these issues is really we're just scratching the surface. And so we're trying to really be innovative with things like the human trafficking issue, to really demonstrate, to get NGOs thinking about how they can use their data and these tools to, yes, report out to their funders more responsibly, but also think about what as resources are constrained, how do they look at other organizations' data combined with their own to really become innovative in the way they're programming for the community.
Okay, fantastic. Could you let our listeners know, number one, your title, and how to get in touch with IBM to apply for these grants?
Thank you. My name is Diane Melley, and I'm a Vice President of Global Initiatives at IBM. And you can look to any organization that wants to engage IBM volunteers, any not-for-profit or school. You can go to ibm.com/volunteers, and you can post your request there and get responses. And that's for both board service as well as volunteering. And then generally for all, I just hit the surface on a lot of our programs, but you can go to ibm.com/responsibility, and you can read about all of our programs, our matching grants, our impact grants, our P-Tech, and all of our new collar initiatives.
All right, well, thank you. And listen, everybody, stay tuned, because we'll be back right after this commercial break.
Visit ymca.net/.
All right, and we are back. Thank you so much. We are talking with the funders. Hey, it's about money, it's about support, it's about expertise provided to those doing good in our city, our region. They include Becki Lynch, who is at GSK, GlaxoSmithKline, Joe Divis at AT&T, Michael Cooper from Citizens Bank, Teresa Rodgers, the Presser Foundation, and Diane Melley from IBM. Listen, I didn't ask this, but Teresa Rodgers is the executive director there, and Joe Divis, assistant vice president of external affairs. And so now that we're back, I'm just going to ask in general, if you would kind of let our listeners know, and if you just identify your corporation or your foundation, what do you think is the focus or something that you're concerned about in terms of support for this year coming up, the rest of 2018? Joe, why don't we start with you?
Councilman, I think from our standpoint, we continue, it's really, I think, a continuation of what we've looked at is the high school success, college readiness. AT&T is a part of the Grad Nation campaign, and which is to drive the American graduation rate to 90%. And when I think when we started with this in 2008 with our Aspire program, it was at 74.9. Hopefully we've had some impact on it growing to 83.2%, but obviously there's a lot more work to do. So, the programs and those that are listening, those things that you're doing maybe with after school, STEM immersion, project-based learning with students, high school students, and those that are kind of in that early college space, that's where we're looking at, I think, really to drive our,
Yes.
so that we really drive that skill set towards the jobs and the careers of the 21st century.
All right, so if you're looking at AT&T, Joe Divis's sweet spot?
High school success, college readiness, work readiness.
All right. And now, Becki, for you and GSK.
So I think for GSK, in Philadelphia and across the U.S., it's really about positive development of the whole child. So thinking about their health, thinking about keeping them safe, and really successful. So I think here in Philadelphia, again, our GSK Impact Awards are all about organizations that are focused on children and families, really making their whole community healthier. So for nonprofits interested in that opportunity, registration through March 30th at us.gsk.com. And then around making children successful, really preparing them, as Joe said, for those careers of the 21st century, focused really on science. And so Science in the Summer registrations will open in May. So that's scienceinthesummer.com for parents looking to get their kids involved in those programs.
All right, and that's Becki Lynch at GSK. Michael Cooper, Citizens Bank. What do you think?
Well, I'd say I throw out two business terms for anybody who's listening who's either in business or has studied business: return on investment and value proposition. And so, as bankers, obviously, we look at our loans and all of our credit facilities with that same lens. We do the exact same thing for community. What we want to know is, how are you, the organization, pushing the dial forward? How are your clients doing? What is the return? How many meals have you been able to serve? How many job placements have you been able to see? Really focus on demonstrating impact. It's not enough just to have a really great cause and to have a really good infrastructure and an accomplished board. What we want to see is that you're really pushing the dial forward on your issue, and that you are providing tangible benefit for communities all throughout our region that are underserved and in need of assistance. And so if you can demonstrate that, and then also add your value proposition, how you, the organization, does that better than anybody else, and why we should be investing with you versus some other organization, that helps us better understand who the right partners are in the community, who's providing the most tangible impact for our community residents, and that's the type of people that we want to invest in. So, for nonprofit heads, think like businesses, and when you talk to corporate funders, talk to them like potential customers. Except your value proposition and your common offering is service to our community, and we want to see metrics and progress.
All right.
I could also say really fast, Councilman, that if anybody wants to read more, they can go to www.citizensbank.com/community.
All right, and I skipped that part, so I'm glad you said that. Let me turn to Teresa Rodgers, the Presser Foundation. What would you tell the listeners?
I would say that our board, we have an extremely committed board, well-versed in music. And our two, if I could pull out two programs that we're interested in, one would be music education, to make sure it's accessible and of quality for students. And then the second area is growing audiences to experience orchestral, ensemble, choral music.
Well, thank you very much. And listen, exactly in 1 minute. Diane Melley, what does IBM say?
Okay, in 1 minute or less. I think overarching everything that we do is all about skills. And so
Okay.
new collar skills, and so across everything, whether it's volunteers bringing their skills into classrooms to major school reform like our pt.2 initiative, it's all about skills and collaboration with other companies. No one company, no one entity can do it alone. So here in the Philadelphia area, wherever we can, we partner with other companies, and we do that around the world. So, David, thank you.
All right, thank you. Thank you, everybody. Becki Lynch, GSK, Joe Divis, AT&T, Michael Cooper, Citizens Bank, Teresa Rodgers, Presser Foundation, and Diane Melley of IBM. So listen, join me next week for In the Know with David O.